Alright, hey everybody, Guilty here, and we're going to try to do a FF7 Remake mod, and I'm going to try to demonstrate how it's done and how you use the tools that are out there. Just because I've seen a lot of questions from people. They're aware of the capability, they just don't know how to put it all together. Even with the resources guide, some people are more visual learners than others, and so they could use a little bit of help, a little navigation. No problemo, we're going to do our damnedest to help. So I'm going to go to where I have another copy of Integrate stored, and actually it's going to be here. We're going to get uModel. So what you need to do is go to Gildor's website, or just type in Gildor, G-I-L-D-O-R, and uModel, or Unreal Model. And there is, I'm just going to throw the link in the description. There's an original uModel which works just fine with the PS4 packages, the PS4 version of 7 Remake. And we had to have some changes made to uModel for the PC version. But it's not too bad. So now that we have it open, we're going to find our game files. Remake Intergrade, End, Content, Packs. It's that easy. Override game detection, Unreal 4, 4.18, and I've learned that you could just, wow, I hit puberty. I've learned you can just leave this auto. Now there's an encryption key that you have to have, and right now it's, I don't know any ways of like removing it. I know with the PS4 packs, there was like a key of all zeros, and then on distro, wherever or whoever I got those from, they must have removed the requirement for a key. But as of right now, this asks me every time for the key, so I just copy paste it from the notepad document. It was posted in the forums on Gildor within hours of launching on the Epic Store, so it didn't take the community very long to get this shit situated. All right, so this is good screen right here. I'm going to widen this out, and what you're going to want is under End, you want Content, Game Contents. All right, so there's a lot of shit here. No big deal. This, from here, from animation to text, this is everything in the game that may or may not be of concern to you. If you're like me and you want to pull all the images from the menus, like the different profile art of the characters, you would, or the different textures of the weapons and the accessories in the menu. Well, you just go to Menu and then Billboard. There's also there's a lot of shit here. And what you can do is we just see what we got, and there you go. So this gives you an idea of what asset you're looking at, and if that's the one you want, you can export it just fine. Now, if you double click on this and you're like, oh shit, where'd my other window go? How do I get back? How do I get back? How do I get back? I just press O. There you go. So let's just jump ahead. If you wanted that image, if you wanted this image for some reason, you would right click on it and hit export. It's supposed to give you the option to choose where it goes and whatever it is, but look right here in the command prompt, check it out. Exporting texture to FF7R, PC, game contents, menu, billboard, and there it is. So there it is, PC, game contents, menu, billboard, common, and I already have everything here. There it is. All right, so what we want to do, what I want to do is do a Buster Sword mod. I want to retexture, recolor the Buster Sword to look like the Debilero from Ninja Gaiden. So we're going to go to Character, Weapon, and there it is right there. Now these are all the weapons, not just player weapons like Cloud, Barret, Tifa, Aerith, Yuffie, Sonnen. You have Shinra security soldiers, you have Scotch, some monsters, Reno, Sephiroth is in here. Yep, right here. Sephiroth Illusion. Oh, fuck. What does that mean? And then, spoiler alert, Nero and Weiss are in here. Is it Weiss? Weiss? I think it's Weiss. Anyway, we want the Buster Sword. Now, what we can do is save the entire thing. the emissive material model and texture assets. So we're going to save that. Bam. Seminar, PC, end, content, game contents, character, weapon, Cloudbuster sword, and then, yep, here's the U asset and the U EXPs for all of these. Neato. Let's export all this shit as well. So we're going to tell it to export. So this is the window that disappeared when I was exporting the one asset earlier. All right, so we already saved the packages, all of the packages for the Buster Sword. Now we're going to export all the textures, and so we can tell it here what kind of what style mesh. Do we want it as a PSK? Do we want it as an MD5? MD5 I think can be read in Noesis, but there's a Blender add-on for PSK and PSKX, so it's really your preference. Initially, when we were doing this with the PS4 packages, I mean, you could export as a PSK, and it would take a minute. But because of a script and a game hack, and that self-described game hack, Noesis could display the models, and if you put in a few more commands, it could even pull the textures from wherever you tell it to and map them out. With this, yeah, if you have the Blender add-on, you can just leave it as is, ping. So we're just going to do this, and boy, looks like that was done. Exported 5 of 5 objects, and now we're going to go look for it again. So we're already kind of here. This is where we were. This is where our assets and stuff are at. And what I could do is go back in. Whoop, nope. 7R. PC. Game contents. Character. Weapon. Cloudbuster sword. Now here's the model. PSK. With a text document that tells me jack shit. So I don't know. What we have here is the main PSK, and then I want to say LOD stands for level of detail. And as you can see, the sizes get progressively smaller. So think of these as like maps. The further the object is away from the camera, the less that is going to be rendered. And this is going to be just a fucking blank polygon. No details, no nothing, because you're not supposed to see it. But you're going to want the regular .psk. And then textures, that's all we got for the Buster Sword. We have the color or the diffuse map. We have the normal. We have the occlusion. And then we have what's been called a MERV. I think really this is metallic. This can be fit into your metallic, your roughness, your specularity nodes in Blender. And if I've seen a few other people say that you can separate the RGB and divert each channel to metallic, roughness, and specularity, and it'll take whatever channel you give it and go from there. So so red, this is orange, but this is a lot of red. And if we were to feed this into metallic, it's going to make the edge probably shine. But we can compare and contrast and see what's best. All right, so we're going to go back in here, grab our texture in our model. We're going to copy and then put it in with these guys. So here's our PSKs with our U assets. Here's our textures with our U assets. Now we're going to open up Blender. So for this, if we have the PSK add-on, which do right over here, import PSK. And let's retrace our steps. Over here, I'm just going to do a quick copy. Go back into Blender. Paste. And there she blows. Import the PSK. And there you go. Buster Sword with 3 bones. Neato torpedo. We can, to see how it looks like in game and to get the best representation as possible, you would use Blender to look at it. And I've been working with Blender for about 10 months now, maybe 11, and there is a curve to it. There really is a learning curve, but I've come a long way, and I'm glad that I started to learn the thing. because the things you can do. And like I'm just a dork that wants to make cool wallpapers. Another thing, so in addition to making wallpapers, we can also just put an asset in and see how it looks before and after. So this is a skin from Sigma 2, Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. And this is not the default color scheme. I modded all these textures, and as I went along, I could see on the model, when I edited a DDS or what have you, I could see what part of her outfit was changing. And so I was able to make something, you know, cohesive, more or less. And it came out pretty well. And that's what we're doing with the Buster Sword right now. We're just going to take this and we're going to go to Material Properties. We got the body and we got Materia. So there's really only a couple things you can apply a texture to. Use nodes. It's going to pull up this, principled, BSDF, and then the output. In our folder with the textures, it's going to be off screen. But we're going to pull our textures in. So here's our color. Here's our metallic. Here's our normal. And here's our occlusion. Now, a couple things to do. We have to line these up and plug them in properly so that we can, you know, view the model properly. The only input, the only image input texture image that's going to be RGB is going to be your color or your diffuse texture. Everything else is just feeding information. You do not want the Buster Sword, in this case, to adopt this look or this look or the. You don't want it to look like that, but you want the information therein. So you would change the color space to non-color. Everything, virtually everything, is non-color except for the colored texture. And when we plug it in, this is what we got. That entire image is mapped to this entire model. Now, if you hear the term UV thrown around, that is in reference to this grid work that associates or assigns a part of this texture to a part of the mesh. And it's called a UV because the X and the Y and the Z, I mean, that's all up here. So we're already talking about X's and Y's and Z's. And then when people were talking about the coordinates for mapping out the texture to the model, to the mesh, somebody was just like, yeah, go back a couple more letters. UV. And there you go. So that's what they're talking about if you hear somebody mention UV. So we have our normal map down here. And this is going to give the Buster Sword some depth. Now look at this. You can tell that the texture is trying to tell you that there's depth here. But at the end of the day, this is a flat image on this model. So we're going to give it some extra detail. Shift A, S, normal, map. Plug that in here. The long way is to go to add and then find what you're looking for in here. So Shift A for add and then S for search. Take color of the normal and plug it into color of the normal map and then normal to normal. And then to see the effects, you can select the node, or not the node, the image texture, hit M. And you can see that there's some change, you can see what's happening. You see that there's additional details being bumped up out of the texture. A strange thing here is that this is shaded wrong. It's shaded flat. You want to shade it smooth. And now everything looks a lot better. There we go. M for metallic. Now we could take color and plug it into specular. Excuse me. We mute that. This is what happens. It takes what we had and it darkens it. We can take color and feed it into metallic. And all right, it looks a little of the same. But if we want to be a bit more particular, more nuanced, we're going to separate RGB from this image right here. Feed the color into the image node right here. And R is going to go to metallic. And let's see what happens with that. Okay. G is going to go to roughness. And that's with it muted, and now it's on again. So it actually gives it a shine, and you can tell the normal map did wonders for those scratches too. The scratches actually have depth. So this is without the metallic or the roughness maps applied, and that's a night and day difference. And then with B, we can just feed that into specular. And specularity is supposed to be its reflectiveness. And you can see what happens when you mute it and unmute it. I mean, it completely changes how the light is reflected, if light's reflected at all. You can see here with it muted, we have, you know, kind of like this bulbous depth up here, and then with it on, well, now we have this flat, it has like this flatter profile. It's very interesting. So we could just take this out and see if we like this. There is something strange about this area right here. You can kind of see that, oh, there's something weird. But I don't know if it's like this in game. I don't know if this is how it looks, or if it looks more like this. I actually am wanting to say that it's like this, but we'll go with this right now. We'll go ahead and plug all these in. We spent long enough time on that. Now occlusion is going to be fed in with the color. Now we're going to mix these images together. So we're going to go to mix RGB. If you drag your node onto one of these lines, you can plug it in like so. And the reason that it looks all funky is because it's on mix. We want multiply. Multiply, if multiply doesn't work, use darken. Now, if we look down here, the occlusion map is very different from the color map. Now, you can see the similarities between the normal, the metallic, and the color. But what is this disparity with occlusion? So for the longest time, I was just taking the alpha and plugging it into the factor. I think that's what it's called. And you can see a slight difference. Occlusion is supposed to provide some shadows, and it does. It provides shadows, but it's not very specific. And if I were to plug it into the other color node, well, since it's the alpha, it kind of does the same thing. But if you plug color into color, it's going to map this to the Buster Sword as if it were another image texture like these. Well, that's not right. The advantage, though, to importing the PSK is that we also have a couple different configurations of our UVs, which to me makes no fucking sense, but that's what happens. So we're going to plug UV map into the vector node of our occlusion. As you can see, this looks like we have a cassette tape right here, right? That's not supposed to be there. It's probably supposed to be right over here. And everything's kind of fucked up. Well, since let me zoom in on UV map here. Since we imported the PSK, it also imported these different instances of UVs. Now, which UV are we using? We can find out. Let's just click on one. Let's click UV single. That's the one we're already using because the cassette tape silhouette is right there. So let's go to extra UVs 0. Okay, not bad. If we were to mute this, looks kind of like how it did earlier. Let's try extra UVs 1 and see how it looks. And was there any difference? Yeah, okay. So extra UV 0, it kind of gives it a lighter profile. So this is just telling the program which UV map to use when it's mapping these, these shadows and everything to the mesh. So look up here, you have UV single. How does UV S0 look? Look at that shit. These polygons, they're actually lined up. Look, there's our cassette tape. It's actually lined up where it's supposed to be. If you zoom in some, you can look. And if we look at extra UVs 1, well, that's not right. That's not right at all. So we want an extra UVs 0. Because out of all of them, this is the only one. I mean, look at these triangles, look at these vertices. Everything is mapped out as it's supposed to. So it looks great. So this is complete. Maybe you can up the factor here if you so choose to increase the shadows. But yeah, this is done. We wanted to mod the Buster Sword, and here we are. So this is how it looks right meow. Now we're going to change the images that we are using. Photoshop is my preferred tool, if you will. So I dragged it into Photoshop, and then this is what we got. This is our diffuse texture, our seed texture. This is the only one you're really going to be messing around with, unless you're making like some drastic changes. Now, if we were just going to do a recolor, I don't know if it's that gold. It might be a little bit more yellow. I think around there. All right. I like 0s and 5s. I don't like just lingering in between. You can adjust that a little bit. If we were doing a recolor, this is what you would do. You would make your changes. You would hit OK. File, save a copy, and you would export it as a DDS. Now, there's a couple different plugins so you can export DDS. NVIDIA has 2 different plugins, a legacy and then a more current plugin. And then Intel also has a DDS plugin, and the Intel plugin actually enables you to save in more modern DDS compression formats, DXT 10. I think DXT 7 as well, but the NVIDIA ones I think only goes up to like DXT 5, BC 5. So this gives you a little bit of flexibility if you're working on a newish game. But when I was working on Ninja Gaiden, it didn't matter. That thing uses fucking BC1 and BC 5 textures. So either a solid texture or a texture with transparency. That was it. So we're going to just get rid of that word copy there, and we're going to save it into the same spot as our current texture. And here we go. Our texture type, it's color. We want BC1, no alpha channel, also known as DXT1. That's exactly what this is. You don't want any of this other shit. There is no see-through part of this, so we do not want an alpha. This is as it is, and auto-generate MIP maps. Done. There it is. DDSinjector.exe. Yep, SamsamTS in the Open FF7R server. Initially we had these Python scripts, and then he took them, made a GUI, made a program out of it, and this is like version 1.9 or 1.10. The dude has been very receptive to feedback. Absolutely love this guy. He's making a lot of this possible with his tool. So all the love in the world to Sam. What you're going to do is you're going to take your texture and you're going to drag it onto DDSinjector.exe. And there it is. So here's the file path for the DDS to inject. Now, the root folder of original assets. We're going to find the U asset, the Unreal asset. You motherfucker. God, antivirus. We're going to find the root folder for the U asset, which we saved earlier when we saved packages. So we're going to go back in, PC, end, content, game contents, character, weapon, Buster Sword, and nope, we're replacing a texture. You're looking for a root folder. There's no specific file type that you're searching for. You're looking for the folder that has it. So it's here, but I don't want to be that granular, so I'm just going to stay out here and see what happens. And then it says, please select the export folder where I want this to go. It's going to go to my mods, this template that I have here, and I'm going to name it Dabby Mod. The reason I'm doing that is because, look, Dabby, end, content, game contents. So this already has a lot of subfolders, but they're going to have to be renamed because, you know, there's differences between downloading or modding weapon textures and summon creature textures and player character textures. So I'm just going to click Dabby Mod and select. And now it's looked and it's like, hey, I found a color map and I found a metallic map. They're both DXT1, so we could also edit the reflectiveness, the specularity, the metallicness of the Buster Sword if we desired. We're not doing that right now. So what we're going to do is select color. That's the one we want to modify. We're going to hit inject. Files injected successfully. I'm going to minimize that for right now. We're going to go into My Mods. We're going to go into the folder we made. Oh, and there it is. There's this texture. There's the U-Bulk, and there's the UEXP. Now, those are 2 of the 3 pieces that we need to make our own package that the game can read. The other piece that we need is the U asset. So we're going to go back to where we saved, not exported, where we saved the packages, which I was right there. PC, end, content, game contents, character, weapon, Buster Sword, model. No, not model. Texture. Because what texture are we fucking with? C. Body C. It's really easy for the Buster Sword because they're all for one thing. The body of the sword. When you have characters that have eyes, clothes, sometimes 2 sets of clothes, if you think about it, like Cloud's pants and his shirt are 2 different assets. When you have hair, and I mean, I think some of the females have like hair on top of hair, it can get a little crazy trying to keep track of everything. But this is pretty easy. We have body C U asset. We're going to copy that, and we're going to paste it with the U-Bulk and the UEXP that we generated from our tool. The next thing we need to do is mirror the file structure that the game uses. So up here, we have end, content, game contents, character, weapon, the Buster Sword, and then texture. We need to do the exact same thing. And we are close. We have the weapon name and then texture. So we're going to cut this, end, content, game contents, character, weapon. That's for my Sephiroth mod. Cloud Buster Sword, texture, U asset, U-Bulk, UEXP. Awesome, done. 2 more things to do. UnrealPak.exe, that is in the resources channel on OpenFF7R. The Discord link or the invite or whatever for that, I'll get one and put it in the description. You're going to take your folder, Dabby Mod folder, your root folder right here, and you're going to drag it, fucker, to UnrealPak with compression.bat. So I'm going to give you some shit here. And there it is, dabbymod.pak. The last thing to do, minimize just about everything we have. The last thing to do is to find where our executable is for Remake Integrate. We're going to go to Desktop, Remake Integrate, End, Content, Packs, and then you're going to make a mods folder with this little, what's this thing called? This little noodle right here. Noodle mods, and this is where you're going to put all of your modded packs, whether you make them yourself or you download them. So take dabbymod.pak, we're going to put that right here, and that's it. Minimize, minimize. Here's the game. We're going to launch it. There you go. It's subtle, but you can tell that it is a goldish yellow color. And if we wanted to know how it would look before we did all of this, well, we would just go back into Blender, select our node, and then click on that. And this is a general idea of what it would look like. Now in game, it's going to apply our shaders a little differently. I mean, look, the blade is a lot. I'm pointing at it like you can see. The blade, the main body of it at least, is a lot darker than our model here lets on. So I'm wondering. I'm gonna close this out. So I'm wondering what we're missing here. Well, if you turn it all down, it's like nothing. Well, something does happen. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Look at that. So it's super reflective, you can see that. And all this stuff is turned down, but it's taking the information from the red channel of our metallic graphic here. So I'm going to take G, put it in a roughness, and then yep, that will kind of buff all that out. So now it's not as shiny. Put this in specular. Doesn't really do much, huh? Specularity is supposed to be how it reflects light back. White light, really. Doesn't seem to do much. So I wonder if it is specular or if it's something else. Now, there is somebody else who did a huge solid for the community. I forget his name, but he released the matte files for a PlayStation 4 version of FF7 Remake. So this will tell you everything that is used when it comes to the textures. Texture 2D, body C, and the name of that parameter is color. Metallic, roughness, variant. We have the M, the normal map, obviously, and then occlusion is the O. We look down here and it's like blend mode, false, blend is opaque. I've seen that for everything, even if there is supposed to be a blend mode, like it's hair or something. But the big thing for me was knowing what textures are used and where they plug in at. So metallic and roughness, got it. Variant, no idea. So maybe it's not supposed to be here, maybe it's supposed to be fucking somewhere else. Well, you know what? This was still, this was viewport. If we go actually into render view, and then the camera, I'm gonna press 0. The camera selected, and this is what our render would look like. This sucks, so we're going to go to view, camera to view, and now however we move our workspace, the camera will now use that perspective as the render area. F12 to render, and there you go. That's actually, yeah, okay. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. But this is the bare bones, I just want to change the color of a texture method for 7 Remake Integrate. We have this in the game now. And that is, if that was what you were wanting, that's mission accomplished. And there is our finished product. Now, I think next time, I'm actually going to grab the model of the Debilero and make some comparisons, get the actual color that it uses. And the shape is the same, but I'm going to probably redraw the blade. And then we can use what we draw to make a new normal map. And then maybe even make a new metallic map while we're at it. So that should be fun. I hope this video is helpful to you guys. Leave some notes or feedback. If there's anything I missed, I will try to include everything that I mentioned in the description. Definitely the Discord link to OpenFF7R. Definitely go to the resources channel. Once you get in, go to resources. That's where the EXE. So we're going to wrap it up here with that. I hope this helps you. And until next time, like, subscribe, go outside.